Just a second, waiting to be able to activate comments. There we go. Okay, I am Sandra Lee with miracleinspirations.com and the Breathe Life's Inspirations blog. I also have the Your Health on Stress and What You Can Do video blog every week. So today we are doing Ask Me Anything About Food and Eating, and I am going further into a question about meal frequency. So Monica had asked about the difference between recommendations to have meals every 2 to 3 hours and 3 real square meals a day. And I talked about this a little bit at the end of an earlier live, and today the whole live is going to be talking about this meal spacing issue. So I was saying that the recommendation that people have gotten to have something to eat every 2 to 3 hours is to keep blood sugar high enough so you don't go into a blood sugar crash. And so if people's metabolisms are not working properly, they need to have that influx of blood sugar frequently because it gets used up. So it's like if you're hungry in 2 to 3 hours, it means you're out of blood sugar and you need some more. But all of that is based on a diet that is dependent on frequent consumption of carbohydrates. And I talked about how carbohydrates and blood sugar is like kindling that you put on the fire. So you put kindling on the fire, it flares up really high immediately, and then it all gets consumed very quickly and you crash. So when you eat exclusively carbohydrates or largely carbohydrates, that's what happens. Your energy goes way up and things go kind of crazy. Your brain might go all over the place. And then your body uses up that blood sugar pretty rapidly, and then you get a drop. And then you get hungry, right? Body says, hey, we need more fuel. Oh, by the way, if for some reason the sound's not working, put in the comments so that I know and then I need to start again and, fix the mic or whatever. Okay, so that is what is behind managing your energy level and this crash by eating every 2 to 3 hours. But really, that is not normal metabolism. Your body should not need to do that. So when you have a diet that is less heavy in carbohydrates and you have more protein and more fat, your body's ability to have sustainable energy, thank you, Monica, your body's ability to have sustainable energy is possible. And it might take a little bit of time for you to get to the point of having that stable energy. Hi, Tony. But it is possible. And it should be relatively easily accomplished. And it just takes setting an intention that that's what you want to do. So it's like if you are in that cycle of needing to eat every 2 to 3 hours or you get hungry, what do? Okay, first step is to add more fat. If you have for your breakfast, for example, being cereal or toast and orange juice, say, okay, that is almost 100% carbohydrates. Little or no protein and little or no fat. So it's all kindling. Does that make sense? So it's like the standard breakfast food that people have consumed is, cereal, toast, pastries, muffins, right? All of, and juice, fruit, all of that is almost completely carbohydrates. And there is nothing in there to sustain your energy for a longer period of time. So it's like if you put even like an egg in there, protein and fat. If you put bacon or sausage, meat in there, what you're doing is you're giving yourself like a log to be able to put on the fire that will last you a little bit longer. Now, if that meal is still pretty heavy in carbohydrates, You're still going to have some level of that energy fluctuation, right? But you have at least some fat and protein to sustain you. So it's like to have it go longer. If you take in that meal, you have, toast and bacon and cereal and juice. And so it's like the percentage of the nutrient dense food that you have, which is basically the meat or the eggs, right? The percentage of what you're eating is still pretty small. But if you take it and you have, like even half of the nutrient value coming from the more nutrient dense foods that are animal products, basically, okay? Butter on your toast, right? If you have milk that's got fat in it as opposed to non-fat or low-fat milk. So it's like there's ways that you can play around with what you're eating at breakfast to make it so it sustains you longer, right? So it's like if you were to eat breakfast at 7 o'clock in the morning and you go to work and you're already hungry by 10 o'clock, that's a problem. You should be able to go from breakfast all the way to lunch without having to be hungry, starving, feel like I need to like go crash through and find some food somewhere because I'm in an emergency state. When your body is dependent on glucose for its metabolism and energy, right? That's what happens. You get in an emergency state and you are willing to go and find anything to eat. So it's like if you're at work, what are they going to have, on people's desks or in the break room to eat? Unfortunately, it's usually junk, sugar, candy, cookies, stuff that is not going to sustain your body for any length of time. It's going to contribute to this energy crash. So it's like if you are in a situation where you have to go to a job at work, okay, and the foods that are readily available are not ones that sustain your energy, I'd forego them. And if you feel like you need to have a snack before lunch at work, bring your own food. Or better yet, do what we're going to talk about today and train your body to not need to have that snack before lunch to be okay. So it's like, what do? You get your body so it's less dependent on glucose, blood sugar, for fuel. So just taking that same breakfast and you put more fat and you put some protein into it will have the duration of that meal go significantly longer. That might be enough to enable you to go all the way from breakfast, whenever it is, to lunchtime without getting hungry. You should be able to go from breakfast to lunch and from lunch to dinner without being hungry. But in the world where, you're listening to people say you need to eat every 2 or 3 hours, you're talking about having 3 full meals plus snacks to get you from meal to meal. Okay, that's a sign that the metabolism is not working properly. Okay, hopefully it's possible for your metabolism to recover from that relatively easily just by making those simple changes to how you put together your meals. As described with breakfast, you can do the same thing with lunch and with dinner. Okay, and maybe even completely cutting out the snacks in between. By giving yourself food every time you get the slightest bit hungry, you are keeping yourself on that wagon of depending on blood sugar. Because every time you get hungry and you feed yourself, you're telling your body, oh, anytime you need it, I'll give you more fuel. Here, keep me happy. Okay? So, first is meal composition. Okay? The second is that assuming you've got some fat and protein in your meals, okay, when you get hungry, don't eat right away. Wait. So it's like if you normally have your breakfast at 7 and your lunch would be at 12, that's a 5-hour spread, right? So it's like giving yourself maybe 15 minutes to eat, close to 5 hours until you have lunch at 12 o'clock or whenever it is, right? If you start getting hungry by 10 o'clock, 2 hours between 10 and 12 is probably going to be a little long. You might not be able to get all the way to 12 o'clock. okay? But if you get hungry at 11 o'clock, you might be able to go that hour until you get to your normal meal time, okay? So if you can do it, then just don't eat. That's my recommendation, right? So what you are telling your body is, okay, I get it, you are hungry because you're out of blood sugar, but I'm not going to feed you right now because I want you, body, to be able to readily and easily, at the moment that it is necessary, switch over from burning blood sugar to burning fat. So thinking about the issues that a lot of people have with weight, right? I have all this fat hanging out in storage. How come my body doesn't go and use that? The body is not going to, your body is always burning some blood sugar, glucose, and some fat. All the time it's burning some. But anytime blood sugar is available, the primary source of fuel is going to be blood sugar. And then when it's out of blood sugar and you don't eat, your body says, oh, I still need fuel. I better go start burning more of that fat. And it starts going to the fat that has been consumed in food, okay? And then if it and then it might eventually switch over to burning stored fat, leading to people's ability to actually change their weight composition. Take the fat cells that have lots of fat in them and use some of it up so that the fat cells get smaller. Okay, that's what's possible when you get out of the cycle of always eating anytime you get hungry. Giving your body the chance to start burning fat more, because it always has the ability to do it some, but it's just not accustomed to it as much. Okay, so that first step is just not eating. Change the composition of what you eat, and then stretch the time between your meals. Now, if you're in this situation, you ate at 7 o'clock and you're hungry by 10, you have 2 hours to go before lunch. Maybe you don't want to give yourself 2 hours of hunger, thinking about food every minute, right, to go that full 2 hours. So what do you eat? My recommendation is that you eat something, but you eat something that is fat and protein, not carbohydrates. So you're not dumping blood sugar into that system to help your body continue to fuel itself that way. That's just perpetuating the issue. Okay? But if you eat something that is primarily fat and protein, you're giving your body some fuel, and so it will maybe have a little bit of carbohydrate in it, just, normally, right? But you'll give your body some fuel to keep it going until you get to the meal. So that might be enough to enable you to go from eating every 2 to 3 hours to actually having 3 real substantial meals during the day with maybe little bits of something to keep you going until you get to that meal. So what would I recommend? So if you have something like coconut oil, that's personally what I would do. Just take a spoon, take a little bit of coconut oil and stick it into my mouth. But then I'm fine with eating that all by itself. Not everybody necessarily wants to eat plain oil all by itself. You could get like little meat snacks, like meat sticks, or if you have leftover chicken or leftover meat sitting in the fridge, you could do that. But if you're in a work situation, you don't have the refrigerator handy and all, but you could, right? So just set yourself up for success. Find some sort of fatty protein, something that you can eat, just a bite even, right? So it's like if I needed to go from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock and I'm hungry and I just want to get enough to get me through, I might have, one, teaspoon, like even, of coconut oil. Or if I have a meat stick, right, I might eat 1 bite, right? What is the minimal amount that you can eat of protein and fat to get you through to 12 o'clock? And experiment. See, how much do I need to eat? Maybe it's, eat a whole meat stick. Or, eat a leftover piece of chicken. Right? Whatever it is you have that you decide you want to use for this purpose, that will get you through to that next meal. And then because you're changing the composition of what you eat, less carbohydrates, more protein and fat, right? Not that you're going to completely cut out carbohydrates, right? Vegetables and fruit are carbohydrates. They've got proteins and other stuff too, but they're largely carbohydrates. And I'm not recommending to anybody to completely eliminate vegetables and fruit, okay? But some, and have it be less, and increase the fat and the protein. And that's what will spread your energy longer periods of time. Okay? So by doing that, you should be able to get to a point, possibly relatively quickly, where you no longer need the snacks and 3 meals is sufficient. That alone is having your metabolism be healthier. If you want to have nuts for snacks, then that can be good to get you through. Okay? But I want to recommend that you only have the snacks if you actually need them. If you need them, great, have them around. And nuts are easy to carry around, right? To have in your purse, right? Have in the drawer of your desk, just as an emergency food, right? But by eating the snack automatically, you're training your body that that's what you're going to do. And that's what your body is going to count on. So that you might get hungry without that extra meal. Right? So it's like part of Monica's original question was between this 2 to 3 hours between eating to having 3 meals a day. So it's like if your goal is to get to a point where you can live on 3 meals a day, then just doing whatever you can to make that happen and having food for the in-between times if you need it. Now, let's take this conversation farther and extend it to something that I'm going to call intermittent fasting. Okay? And intermittent fasting was what I do. So for me, in a normal day, I will have one real meal, and it's huge, right? A full day's worth of food in one meal. And then I have a snack with my husband that's really kind of optional. I mean, I'd be fine without it. I don't get hungry. I don't get hungry at all anymore. Because my body, I can tell, I get a tiny little bit of hunger, and then it goes away because my body has flipped over to burning fat because I've trained it to do that. And it takes a little bit of work, right? It takes work and persistence, a commitment to it to be able to get to that point, but it's definitely possible for most people. Okay? And I'm not saying that everybody is necessarily going to be able to or want to get to the point where they only have one meal a day plus maybe a snack, right? But it's certainly possible. Okay? And it takes doing this thing that I've been talking about, stretching the length of time between your meals by not eating and by changing what you eat, the way you eat, the quality of what you eat, to be more to have more of an emphasis on protein and fat and quality carbohydrates rather than depending on the standard American food that's out there that is very high in carbohydrates and sugars and low quality fats, right? So it's like listen to the live where I talked about quality of fats and oils and upgrade quality of fats and oils. And, you know, having higher quality animal products is certainly going to make a difference, right? So it's like higher quality eggs, right? You're going to get more nutrient value from those eggs, all that kind of stuff. So it's like making it so you get more nourishment from whatever food it is that you're eating so that it sustains your body longer so it doesn't need to get hungry. So if you look at the picture on the Facebook page of my plate of food that I have on my business page, okay? That was one meal. One meal. A huge plate of food that I ate all at one time. So there are a lot of people who wouldn't be able to eat that much food in one meal. And I certainly understand, right? The only reason I can eat that one meal is because I only have one. Plus, a less nutrient dense, you know, just because snack. I mean, my husband and I have fruit and chocolate, you know, in the evening. right? That's a treat, right? I'm fine without it because I don't need the nutrients, right? That's just for enjoyment, right? But all of the nutritional value comes in that one big meal. And it took a little while to get to that point, but it's definitely sustainable, right? So I do intermittent fasting where basically I'm having 2 meals a day. It could be 1 meal, but I'm also able to fast for 3 to 5 days if I decide I want to do that. And I don't get starving. So years ago, I used to get so hungry that I almost felt like I would fall over because I didn't have any blood sugar, right? And this was long before I had trained myself to eat the way that I eat now, right? It's when I was eating standard American diet, right? And, you know, I was still on sugar binges. And so I literally would almost feel like I was so hungry that I would fall down. The wind would knock me over, right? And I don't get hungry at all anymore. And it is so nice not having my whole life center around where am I going to get some food. Now, the truth is, because I cook all of my food, my life still kind of centers around food, but for different reasons, right? I'm preparing high quality food that I care about, right? That I put real effort into, and I enjoy cooking. So my life revolves around food for that reason, not because I depend on it to have energy to be able to function. I literally never get starving. I barely get hungry, and I never get really hungry at all anymore because my body always has the ability to flip over and burn fat. So I hope that helps. Maybe I can talk more on another live about more about intermittent fasting and getting to that point of 1 meal a day and actual fasting. Would you guys like that? To talk about that? I'm talking about grass-fed tomorrow, so maybe the day after that. What do you guys think? Put this way, I'm just going to do it. So we'll talk more about meal spacing. So you guys will have an opportunity, you in particular, Monica, because I know this is something you're concerned about, will have an opportunity to practice this spreading your meals apart and see how it goes, and maybe you can come with some questions. Okay? So I am thinking that that is probably going to be, why don't we say let's do that on Wednesday. Wednesday at 8 o'clock Pacific time. Okay, so I'm not sure if I've already got something on for Tuesday, but so I'm going to say Wednesday the 10th, we're going to talk more about meal spacing, intermittent fasting, and fasting. Okay, so that you have a couple of days to play around and maybe come up with some questions. You able to make it 8 o'clock on Wednesday, Monica? I am going to sign off for now, and you can put it in the comments on my page. Okay? So back with you again.